So you believe in the gospel, right? And you believe in the cross, right? And you believe in the empty tomb, right? And you believe in the everlasting love of God, correct? Well then, why don't you act like it? Why don't a lot of times, don't I act like it? Either for yourself or for other people. Isn't that funny? We are people who have within our hearts, within our minds, the very message of life. We carry it with us every day, everywhere we go. The message of God through Jesus Christ is just a thought away. We carry this message of life in our hearts, in our minds. The gospel, what does it do? When we understand it all the way to the very end, it encourages us to be free. Just like Paul today is saying that he is free under the law of Christ. What does that mean? Love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, all your mind, and love your neighbor as yourself. That sounds like good society to me. Yeah. Encourages you to be free. Encourages you to be bold. You and I were not created to have spirits of fear, but instead spirits of boldness. Be bold to live life, and live life well, and live life wisely. Otherwise, you'll waste so many years, so much time, and struggle and suffer with so much pain. And it encourages you to be renewed and regenerated every day. The world, you can feel it, can't you? Just pounding down on you. But you've got a place to go. You've got something that can become part of your life and free you from so many things. Free you from worry. Free you from fear. Free you from cynicism. Free you from death. Do you act like you even know it? Do you encourage others with this good news that lives within you? Do you even think about doing that? And on top of all of that, it's backed by power. It's backed by power. Just look at the pedigree, so to speak, of what we're talking about. Goodness gracious, we go to our first reading today from Isaiah chapter 40, and we receive the premise, and we receive the reality, and the premise is this: have you not known it? Have you not heard? Has it not been told you from the beginning? Have you not understand from the foundations of the earth? It is He who sits above the circle of the earth, and its inhabitants are like grasshoppers, who stretches out the heavens like a curtain and spreads them like a tent to live in, who brings princes to naught and makes the rulers of the earth as nothing. And then there's the reality. Scarcely are they planted, scarcely sown, talking about you, talking about me in our physical sense, if all we do is put our hope and trust in the powers of this world. Scarcely are they planted, scarcely sown, scarcely has their stem taken root in the earth, when He blows upon them and they wither, and the tempest carries them off like stubble. To whom then will you compare me? Or who is my equal, says the Holy One. And it might be that causes us pause. Wait a minute. We can fall into that stinking thinking, can't we? You know what the stinking thinking is, right? That's when we kind of revert back to being rebels, reverting back to our human nature. You know what, God, I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear how powerful you are and how unpowerful I am. But then guess what? Another day goes by and we get another day older. Another day goes by and we get another ache and pain. Another day goes by and we get maybe a little bit of gray hair where we didn't have some the day before. And aren't we surrounded by ignorance and stupidity? Can't you just see it everywhere? And yes, sometimes even within yourself. May not like to hear it. May not like to hear the premise, may not like to hear the reality, but there it is. But yet, once again, shining through all of that is this incredible message of the gospel. Is this incredible message of God's love. If we would simply listen to Jesus softly and tenderly calling us, come home. Oh, we want control. We want power. Really, if you think about it, what is the essence and nature of all sin? We want to be God. I was listening to someone speak the other day, and it fascinated me. Really, you can just divide the world into two groups of folks. And if you understand this one basic premise, you can understand the two groups of folks and where they're all coming from. There's those who put God first, and then there's those who put themselves first, who want to be God. And I thought about that, and I thought, that there's really a lot to that. There really is. You talk with someone and you try to understand where they're coming from. What do you... And then maybe it clicks. It clicks. Yet God comes for all of us. For all of us. For you and for me. Lifting us up on eagle's wings. We go to our gospel, and maybe one of the problems that we run into as people who say, okay, all right. I can understand, okay, I get the whole thing about not putting God first, but I put God first. I do what I'm supposed to do. Well, we might find ourselves committing the sin that we see in the gospel today. And what sin is that? Today it's all about control. Okay, so you've let God in, you've opened the door, but now that God's in, are you really going to pray, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven? Or are you saying, no, Lord, just kind of work with me a little bit. It's kind of like my will be done, and I'll do my best to kind of, walk alongside you. Here comes Jesus, right? Jesus does all of these incredible miracles. He heals the mother-in-law, Simon's mother-in-law. He casts out demons. He does all of these things. We read there in verse 33, and the whole city was gathered around the door. Finally, in the wee hours of the morning, after it gets very dark, Jesus kind of sneaks out into the countryside to pray. Because Simon and his disciples are looking all over for him. Where'd he go? Where'd he go? Where'd he go? I don't know. Did he say anything to you? No, he didn't say anything to me. Well, where'd he go? Well, where did God go? We need to know where Jesus is. We need to keep tabs on him. How dare he walk off on us? And they found him. And what they say to him? Everybody is searching for you. In other words, what are you doing here? You've got no business being here. You need to be back where we want you to be. We need you to be back in our lives, where we are, in our situations, in our perspectives. And we want you to heal us and be there for us according to our timetable and what we want. And what does Jesus say? It's almost funny. Without a blink. Just think what they just said. Everyone is searching for you, and he says, let us go to the neighboring town. What? Well, didn't you hear a thing I said? Let us go to the neighboring town so that I might proclaim the message there also. We don't care about those people, Jesus. We want you here. For that is what I came out to do. Well, if we find we can't out and out reject God, we can try to control God. And then we find out that God won't even be controlled. And not only that, we find that God can't be controlled, but God then says to us, oh, by the way, here's what I expect of you. You need to be one another's servants. Oh, no, wait. No. You need to be one another's slaves. We go to our second reading for today, 1 Corinthians chapter 9. Paul is talking, and I don't think he's just talking about himself. I think he's giving a model for everyone to follow. For though I am free with respect to all, there's that freedom if we can just but see it. For though I am free with respect to all, I have made myself a slave to all. Oh, you made yourself a slave. So God's not really beating you over the head, forcing you to do something you don't want to do. You have made yourself a slave. In other words, what you've really done is you've taken on a discipline. Oh boy, those aren't fun. And you've become a disciple. And why? So that I may win more of them. Now, this next part, we read this in our second reading for today, we can say, well, Paul's just being sneaky. He's just trying to fool everybody. No, you fool people with lies. Right? You fool people with scams. You fool people by telling them one thing that makes it sound really good, but then, on the other hand, you're going to hit them over the head. Paul's not being sneaky. He's being very straightforward. This is what he's saying. He's saying, you know what? You really want to get involved in people's lives. You really want to communicate the good news, the gospel of Jesus Christ. Then you have to go where they are. That's the very first step. You have to go where they are, and you have to learn who they are. Then when you go where they are and learn who they are, then you can answer questions. And when you start answering questions, light bulbs start going off. And all of a sudden, the gospel is something more than theory. It's more than theology. It's more than something in a book. It's something that lives and breathes and becomes real in a person's life. Now, you notice that Paul doesn't say to the Jews, oh, I'm going to be a Jew. If you're under the law, then I'm going to put myself back under the law. If you're outside the law, well, then I'm just going to throw God's law out the door. You don't become what it is that you're ministering to, but you have to at least try to become involved in their lives in some way. To the weak I became weak, so that I might win the weak. I have become all things to all people, that I might by all means save some. And that's the nature of the gospel. Have you ever talked to a Jewish person? Do you know why they do the things that they do? You might find out that they don't really do things too much differently than you do. I remember when I was invited years ago to the synagogue here in Peoria, part of a good friend's daughter's bat mitzvah. And we were invited to the service, and they had a Seder meal. And they poured the wine, and they broke the bread, and they spoke the words, and everybody ate a piece of bread and drank some wine. Now, these people take communion. I didn't know that. Now, of course, they don't believe that Jesus Christ is the Son of God in the way we do. But you know, we're not really that very far from our Jewish brothers and sisters. And on and on and on we can go. To one under the law, how many times have I felt under the law where I feel like my spirit's been crushed? Maybe I should ask someone why they feel their spirit is crushed. Or outside the law. Did you ever have those years in your life where you said, you know what? This boy's going to do or this girl's going to do whatever he or she wants to do. You remember how ultimately miserable that was when you look back on some of those years? How lost you were? That's where that person is right now. How might you help them? Weak people that can't even look to a new day. You ever been there? And on and on. Yes, when we find out people's stories, then we can say, but you know what? There's something else. And that's Jesus the Christ and the everlasting, incredible power of God. I know it's not easy. I know it's inconvenient. Because you might look through this and you might see your kids or your grandkids in there and, oh my gosh, I don't want to give them a call. It could be just that close. But yet, what are we called to do? We are called to become these things, so that we might win some to Jesus Christ for the sake of the gospel. Going back to the beginning of the sermon, you've got this treasure. You're here this morning. You're the one that's made the decision to get out of bed and drive here and be here and enjoy this service, this message, the body and blood of Jesus Christ. You've got it. Whether you do it out of duty or whether it's a spontaneous thing, it doesn't matter. You've got it as part of your mind, your spirit, your soul, your being. Don't you want to share that with other people? Don't you want them to see the life that's within you. And it's a hard step. But it's an important step. And when people see God alive in you, their estimation of you goes up. It does. Maybe not at first. They might not agree with you at first. But over time, they can't help but gravitate towards the strength and the love they see within your being and your soul. Do you believe in the gospel? I know you do, because you're here. Do you believe in the love of Jesus Christ? I know you do, because you're here. And thank goodness for that, because we need that love, each and every one of us. This is a sermon that I'm preaching to you, but I'm preaching it to myself too. So let's go forth from this place knowing that we are strengthened by this very gospel. And let's open our ears and listen and be willing to touch other people's lives with the good news that we carry with us each and every day. Amen.